I'm Mike Walker.
I'm David Patrick.
Thanks for rejoining us for the second half of our sit-down with Chris Grabenstein. Sit back, grab a stein of Dr. Pepper, and listen to the smooth sounds of Mike on trumpet, David on Show Don't Tell, Chris on Yes and the ever-popular Dads on Books.
I love it. So, can I get back to Miss Pennypickle's puzzle quest real quickly?
Please.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I loved it, and I'm going to go back to something that you said, that you don't describe the physicality of the characters too much. As you were saying that, I remember just really liking the characters. And it was based on, especially listening to what you said, it was based on, well, first of all, it's written in first person from Benji's point of view.
Right.
And it also reminded me of the Crossroads, because the Crossroads that you wrote, which is for older kids, if I recall,
Right. Yes.
that was written in third person point of view, but it was almost like always from the point of view of whatever character was doing something. Does that make sense?
Exactly. We call that third person close, where you've got the omniscient voice, but you're close to whatever character you decide you're going to be close to. And the most fun in the Crossroads, it's only 40,000 words long, but there's 123 chapters in that book. Some are 1 or 2 pages long.
Yes.
And the most fun was writing chapters where I was close to the dog. And my editor loved those ones so much. I want some more of Zipper. Write some more chapters where you're close.
I need more dog.
I need some more dog. It was kind of fun to write from a dog's limited vocabulary point of view. And what would you be most fascinated with? Yes, so
Interesting.
and most of my books are written in probably third person close. A lot of the James Patterson are first person. And what characters do and how they face the world tells us more about who they are than any descriptors I could do.
I love that.
One of the things I do with kids is I used to read a scene from the Crossroads where he's having an imaginary baseball game by himself. And the kids can tell me so much about that character, that he's shy, that he doesn't have a lot of friends, that he's an underdog because he's rooting for the Mets. You know, the kids could tell me more about his character than if I had said, once upon a time, there was a boy named Zach Jennings. He was shy and didn't have a lot of friends, and his mom had recently died, and he was a bit of an underdog. And that's the way I try not to write. We call that show, don't tell.
Yes, show, don't tell. So, Chris, you obviously did some research on me, because my main job is I'm a stay-at-home dad now, but my kids are in school. They're a little bit older, and that means I have more bandwidth to do things. And I started my own improv classes, and I call it Show, Don't Tell.
Oh, excellent.
I personally think, besides yes and, that's one of the most important rules of improv. It's one of the rules of improv that applies to life.
Right.
That actions speak louder than words. And that's all over Miss Pennypickles. It's all over the Crossroads. Just the brief interactions between the boy and his dad, it shows you so much about their personalities and their dynamics. And you had a real economy of words in there. Is that something you also do in your writing?
Yes. Yeah. I always try to, partly because I know I'm writing for kids, and partly because I wrote advertising for 20 years. And you're always cutting. You know, if you have a 30-second commercial and talk wall to wall, which you never want to do, you have 70 words. So you're always aiming for like 35 kind of words to tighten it up and make it as tight as you can. And how can I tell more of the story visually? Because they were mostly TV commercials. But even in radio, you had to like set things up quickly and bounce things back and forth. So that's why I love writing Audible originals too, because I get to go back to my radio roots. And yeah, so it's all show, don't tell. It all gets back to theater, you know. Nobody likes the exposition scenes in theater. We used to call them the flower arranging or the dusting scenes, where some old-fashioned plays would always start with, well, I hear we're going to have some guests this weekend at the cottage. Yes, I think he is very wealthy, but he's also a bit of Lothario. Watch out for that one. So it's like, you don't want to do that kind of stuff where you do exposition like that.
I'm going to see the importance of being earnest. And I did the show years ago, but as you were saying that, I was just thinking, I don't even remember if it starts out with exposition like that. I think it does. But I remember loving the cucumber sandwiches. They were very good.
Yeah. I like those too.
Yeah. I love that you come from the theater background, because that's David and I do too. And it's just fun to hear all of the stuff that we talked about, not on the show and on the show. We've known each other for 8 years ish.
Since the 1900s. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we've known each other for a long time, and we've been doing this show forever, since 2025.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of the fun thing about doing the show, is getting people like you on who we can look at and go, oh my gosh, that's very similar to like some of the things that we did as performers. So it really is fun to hear your stories about the improv and the theater. And
yeah, it all makes sense when you I'll do a presentation. When I do a keynote address anywhere, it's always my yes and life. Like, how'd you become a New York Times bestselling author? Like, I was saying yes when maybe wiser people would have said no. I don't want to do that. Like the Crossroads started out, that was originally written as an adult book. It was actually the third book I ever wrote. It was rejected roundly by everybody. But then my agent at the time was at a cocktail party, and someone was saying, does anyone have a ghost story for kids? Does anyone have a ghost story for kids? And my agent said, well, this guy Chris I represent wrote a ghost story, but it's not for kids. And he said, well, if it's any good, we can turn it into one. And so he read the ghost story, said, all right, get rid of all the adult language and the adult situations and cut it from 120,000 words down to 50,000 words. And my agent said, do you want to do that? He was like, you don't want to do that, do you? I said, yes, I do, because I have 24 nieces and nephews who cannot read these adult murder mysteries I've been writing.
At least not for a few years.
Exactly. And so I said, yes, I'll do that. And when I did it, I rediscovered that Mad Magazine voice in my head, and I realized this is more fun. And so I rewrote that. But what's funny is the agent or the editor who wanted that ghost story, when I was done, no, we're not looking for ghost stories anymore. Thanks for working on it. But JJ and I don't have any kids, but we have our best friends are Kath and Dave, live up in Westchester County, have 2 kids running around. And so we tried the book out on them. I wanted to, I think this is what kids would like this. And they loved it. And they were running around. They go to a Unitarian convention church, whatever. We're running. We read the best book. We read the best book. Turns out another member of that congregation was the head of children's books at HarperCollins and said, what's this book these kids are talking about? And my buddy Dave is a fire chief. So he's like very gregarious. It's the best book. My buddy Chris wrote it. It's the best book. You really should read it. And so she read it. She interviewed the kid and saw what they liked it. And then my agent called up a friend at Random House and said, HarperCollins is interested in this ghost story my friend wrote. And so that's why the book is dedicated to those 2 kids who read the book before anyone else.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
How cool is it to be a kid that gets to read something before anybody else?
Yeah, I used to do a lot more of that. With all the kids in this building have grown up. We used to have a lot of 8 to 12-year-olds in this building, and I would give them a book and say, what do you think? And now we're famous for giving out books on Halloween. We give candy. We don't want to be the dentist who only gives away toothpaste on Halloween. But, we do give out candy and books. And a couple kids come just for the books. And they want to sit in the hall here and talk to me about books.
That would be my kid, who actually all 5 of our kids. I have 2. David has 3. But all of them, we live in different cities, and his kids, just like mine, sit around and read all the time. All the time.
Oh, that's great.
They love it. And the reason I say that is Ruby, who is my youngest, really loves your books. So when Dan had sent an email to us saying, oh, these are the people that I sent an email saying, if these guys are fun and you want to be on their show. So when you wrote back, I was like, I swear I've seen that name before. I was like, wait, I looked up some of the books. And I'm like, oh, Max Einstein. I think we have that one. I know that Ruby read that. So I went and I said, hey, Ruby, do you have Max Einstein? She was like, yeah. She went and grabbed it off of her shelf because she has everything organized. She's like, what? Why are you wanting to read this book? And I said, well, this guy answered an email and his name's Chris Grabenstein. He's going to be on our show. And she was like, my gosh, wait. When you finish that, you have to read Lemoncello because that's my favorite. And then she just kept bringing more and more. And I was like, oh my God, have we financed this writer's whole life?
I believe
because
you.
we have so many. I'm like, wow. So I did not have to go out and purchase a single book, but I did because she did not have any of the newer ones because now she's 16 and she's gotten into different things. But she still loves your stuff. So
Yeah, I love hearing from now because the first Lemoncello book came out in 2013, so that's 13 years
yeah.
ago.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the kids who started with that book have now graduated college, and they write me these really sweet little letters. Like when they get bored, when they get burned out at college, they go back to reading Lemoncello to remind them when reading was fun.
Well, it's funny because that's what I've learned over the past year since we started the show. Is there are so many really great books that are written for kids that still speak to adults. I read somewhere you should always write with the idea of what you're trying to tell the kids so that they get out of it what you are trying to teach them.
Well, that's what Jim Henson told me. Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly,
which I thought was super cool that you worked with Jim Henson. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Well, I only met him I worked with a guy named Michael Frith, who is the brains behind like Fraggle Rock and most genius. They were all genius creative people at Henson. Henson Associates called that so he could have a logo that said HA exclamation point ha. And his musical company was Henson Universal Music, so it would be hum. So they're all like the wackiest people. Yeah, we did present. Our script was called Penguin for a Day. And he said, that's when he said, what lessons are kids going to take away from this?
Yeah.
So I always try to make sure I know what my theme is, and there might be other themes that kids take away, but I try to make sure I know what it is.
And I think that's so important. It's not like whacking you over the head or anything, but Dan Yacarino talked about it as well. He writes his books to teach empathy. And it's just so important to be able to get those lessons. But you know what? It's really important for us to go back and read those books as adults and see those messages.
Right. Yeah, that's what somebody said. That's why I like fiction so much. It is a tool for empathy because you become somebody else for 300 pages and see, wow, that's what their life is like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I did have a personal question for me. Did you actually work with John Denver or?
No, that was I won't tell you what our lawyer said at the time. Well, you're right. My buddy and I from Carlson and I, we wrote this script. And this is how we wrote a script for a Christmas movie. Our movie took place in Vermont. It was a classic. And I think John Boy Walton was popular at the time. So we sort of wrote it with him in mind.
He taught me at summer camp.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So
Richard Thomas.
We wrote it for him. And he was an advertising guy who wrote jingles because I did work in advertising a little bit. And we wrote this script. Ronnie, my partner buddy from college, he knew someone who worked with a production company in Atlanta. That lady read it. She loved it. She took it out and she pitched it to someone she knew at CBS. CBS loved it. They had an existing deal with a big producer named Norman Rosemont, who had won more Emmy Awards than anyone. He used to do those, remember like the Count of Monte Cristo and all those classic books were movies of the week. He produced all of those. So he had one left on the deal. But he said, I have a Christmas movie. He had one movie left with CBS. I have a script. I think we should do this one instead of that one. And the people at CBS read his script and said, no, we like what the boys in New York wrote better. And then he had a ski chalet in Georgetown, Colorado, near John Denver's. And John Denver, I guess, had grown a mustache. No one recognized him. He was at the end of his career. And Norman Rosemont said, I have a script for you. And John Denver said, well, someone wrote me a Christmas movie years ago. Here it is. They took that to CBS, tried to kill our movie again. And the people at CBS said, we like what the boys in New York wrote better. And so then finally, Norman Rosemont came to New York and had lunch with us and told us how everybody at CBS was trying to kill the idea. He didn't know that someone was giving us the insights. So eventually it is done, and they turned it over to a Hollywood rewrite person, and they rewrote it, but you get good credits on that movie.
Chris, I have a question I keep wanting to ask you because you mentioned it a lot. You mentioned radio.
Yes.
And you clearly have a great voice for radio, but since I don't do any research, Since I don't do any research, I have no idea of your radio experience. And I'm a licensed DJ because I was a DJ for a year, 2 semesters in college. Tell me about your radio experience.
I did the same thing. Yeah, I wanted to be. I grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and there was a guy on the morning radio called Chickamauga Charlie, who was this funny guy, had the sound effects and all that wacky stuff. And they used to play a syndicated show called The Legendary Chicken Fairy. And I said, this is where I tend to take my wacky brain. So I went to Atlanta and I got my FCC third class license with something or other. And I got my first radio job. Actually, I used to go down to WDXB in Chattanooga, and there was a guy who let me and another buddy of mine, like sometimes come into the studio and do funny voices with him. So that was kind of a taste of that. And then I got to college, and the University of Tennessee had they had the University WUOT classical music, and they did jazz and rock and roll on the weekends. And I was able to get a job doing jazz, which was always Charlie on bass, so-and-so on piano. I always said the word on over and over. And you'd be mellow about it. And then they had a rock and roll radio show on Saturday nights, and you were supposed to play all this German kind of new wave rock and roll. And I was so sick of what they wanted us to play. I played Hey Jude one night, and I got fired. I got fired. And the University of Tennessee gave me some kind of honor, and I talked about how I got fired. And everybody who works at that radio station now, we'll have you back, we'll have you back. But then I lucked into a job. I think there was a director who wanted me to stay in town over the summer to do a production of The Music Man, where I would be the anvil salesman, the one character who doesn't really sing because I can't sing. And he knew someone at the local rock and roll station, and he hooked me up there. So I got a job at W149, the album station. And I was the weekend guy, or there's a good concert in town. We all want to go to it. Chris, can you work? This shift was that. And that's how I paid my way through college, was doing that for a couple of years.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
And then when I got in advertising, I loved writing radio commercials. Nobody else did. And because I was a big fan of like Bob and Ray and all the kind of funny radio that could be done. And so I ended up becoming the head of the radio task force in advertising and worked on all sorts of commercials, which was fun.
That's awesome.
A radio task force. That sounds like
whoa,
the American Expeditionary Force.
Nobody wanted to write radio, and the radio was terrible. So the head of the agency said, you will be in charge of all radio, and what you say will go. So I could go into people who want to do boring radio and go, no, if we're going to do good radio, I will present you with some good radio, and the client can decide whether they want it or not. In most cases, they did want it.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like between your experience with radio, improv, and advertising, especially writing copy, all of that gave you a great training ground, great preparation for your work as an author.
Yeah, and also seeing the fact that James Patterson quit. He was my first boss in advertising. Yeah, he used to come to work at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and you'd hear him in there writing books, and then he'd do advertising all day, and then he'd work on his books. And he had like 6, 7 books that came out, but then he created the character of Alex Cross. And by that time, I believe he was chairman of the board of J. Walter Thompson. And he never told me this, but I've heard stories that he went into the J. Walter Thompson, New York, and he went in to the head of all J. Walter Thompson, said, I can't afford to work for you anymore because these books are really taking off. So he quit advertising. He went off and wrote books. And so advertising is a great job if you're like between the ages of 21 and 35. I hung on until I was like 44, I think, because you get into management. But my late wife used to say to me, do you see anyone over the age of like 40 doing what you're doing? I said, no, because I used to pay you very handsomely. And she said, these are baseball salaries. You're not going to make this money for the rest of your life. So we salted all that money away. And that gave me enough money to say, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I got a new boss who wanted all the fun clients I was working on and made me work on Crystal Light, which did maybe one print ad a year, but had 40 different meetings about that one print ad throughout the year. I was just miserable. So I said, you know what? I got enough saved up. I can quit. And that guy, James Patterson, had a pretty good second career when he quit writing advertising and started writing books. There's a correlation, I think. What James Patterson taught us all was always write commercials as if nobody wants to or has to read anything you've written or watch anything you've filmed or listen to anything you put on the radio. Because when I was writing commercials, I got out in 2001. TiVo was just starting, but we had the zapper. Everyone had a remote control. We had the buttons on the radio you could push. If I don't like this, you got 5 seconds to win me over. I'm zapping you. So that taught us. Jim always said, throw a pie in their face, and once you have their attention, say something smart. And so all my books start with a metaphorical pie in the face, kind of grab you like, what? Where's this going to go? As opposed to a lot of exposition. It's like, Miss Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest starts out. He's in the movie theater trying to win a game, and it's pouring rain outside. And how am I going to get home? And if I can grab your attention with that, you'll stick around for the next chapter to learn a little bit more about who Benji is and who his brother is and that kind of thing.
And that is why I finished the book last night when I started it last night. Because, OCD, ADHD, whatever it is, drives me when something is good and it's almost a cliffhanger. You almost can put the book down. But then but I really want to know what's happening. And every time. And I was like, I think it said I was 86% of the way. No, it was 64% of the way there. And I was like, oh, I should put it down now and finish it after we talk. And then the next thing I knew, it was 86%. And I was like, well, at this point, really, it's only going to go up to 95 or 96%. So I'm almost done. I may as well finish it. And I'm glad I did, because the end, there's like little twists and turns that I loved.
Yeah,
Okay, do you guys know what the Latin phrase mea culpa means?
My fault. Mea culpa.
Yes. Okay.
My
So,
bad.
all of those and more. But the reason why I bring it up is because I didn't know, Mike, that I knew Mike. I've known Mike for years. Mike, I did not know that you didn't finish the book, or that you were even going to read it, because that was my assignment. Was this
Exactly.
book. Now, the mea culpa is I didn't finish the book.
Oh, but you got to keep your mouth closed over here, Mike.
Well,
biggest surprise
except
ending
time out.
I've ever done,
Say it again.
Biggest surprise ending I've ever had. We
Well-
even have the Pennypickle Pledge, where you will solemnly swear you will not tell anyone what happens at the end of it.
The reason why I didn't finish the book is this. I'll read the very last words in your thank yous. Okay. So spoiler alert, Chris does some thank you. Who knows where we might head next? I didn't finish the book, Chris, because when I was a kid, especially before I got jobs, I would read a lot in the summer, and I would throw a book when I was done.
Oh.
And I wanted you to see me throwing
Throw
your
a book.
I threw it because I finally finished it.
So you finally finish a book.
I was actually going to do that before I finished the actual book, and then, I finished it. But wait, there's thank yous. I won't finish the thank yous so I can genuinely finish the book in front of Chris, and I finished it. And I finished it. Anyway, okay, sorry.
Yes, we do have a second news Pennypickle coming out in October.
Awesome.
It'll be another return along Route 66. I was going to do different routes, but Route 66 is so fun.
And
is.
there's so many places to stop.
Exactly, yeah.
Needles, the side of the road where we broke down, David.
Yeah, so
Visit.
Chris,
Yes.
so what happened
I
was,
love that place.
Mike and I were driving from LA, a car that my dad was going to buy from my brother, and it broke down.
And I was
somewhere between.
So he was in that car. I was driving his car behind him so that we could drive back.
We never made it to Needles.
We didn't make we did make it to Needles. That's where they towed the car to. And then we found a hotel and a place to get the car looked at. But by the time we got there, it was 8 or 9 o'clock. So there was no food open, I don't think. So we went to a bar. What are you going to do? And there was a biker gang there.
Yeah.
What's really fun about your sequel coming out, Chris, in the fall is that 67% of our author guests just published a really good book that we read and talked about and have a sequel coming out this fall.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, the fall is big time.
Because we talked to Dan Yacarino, and the sequel to Piccolo is coming out this fall.
Yep.
So if you'll have us again, we'd love to read the sequel and then talk to you about it.
Pennypickle's Remarkable Road Race. Yes, that's what we call it. We had a lot of time. Titles are tough. And I also have another book coming out in the fall. Even though we did Mr. Lemoncello's fantabulous finale, I love the world of Mr. Lemoncello so much.
Yes.
And I wrote on spec like a holiday book, going back to my Christmas movie, Love It's a Wonderful Life. I just love Christmas stories. So I wrote a Christmas story, and my editor said, why don't we set a holiday novella in the world of Mr. Lemoncello? So Mr. Lemoncello's Wonder Miss Christmas Gift.
Ooh.
It's going to be like 100 pages shorter. It's supposed to have a fancy foil cover, so it'll be like a nice gift. So it's Mr. Lemoncello, Dr. Zinchenko, the library, but the kids will be different. Like I think we've played out Kyle versus Charles, 7 books. That's enough. So this will be a new set of kids, all about a girl whose mom is one of these like traveling nurses, and they've been in 5 different towns over 5 years, and they moved to Alexandriaville, Ohio, 2 weeks before Christmas. So she shows up at school the first day. It's Secret Santa Day, and everyone else is having fun, and she doesn't know anybody. But there might be some magic involved in this one, because the holidays are a magical time.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I love that. And now I know what to get my kid for Christmas, maybe. Oh, man, I got to cut that out because I don't want to hurt. Oh, she'll never listen to this.
For dads only, this podcast.
That's right. There's dads on books, not the kids on books.
Dad jokes. Hold on.
Dad jokes.
What's the best thing about Switzerland?
I don't know, but the flag's a big plus.
So,
Ow!
Oh, my wife said I should stop impersonating a flamingo. I just had to put my foot down. That's it. That's all it is.
Did you hear about the cheese factory that exploded in France?
It's very holy.
There was nothing. That's in Switzerland. Was nothing left but debris.
Oh, okay. And because I got this for the Christmas season while I was in Ireland. So one of the things we always do, Chris, is usually I just open a book and read something. This time I picked a card. What's Christmas tree's favorite candy?
Canes?
Cane.
Ornaments.
Ornaments.
Woo! It's a party. I have so many more questions, but look at the time. As with every other interview we've done, we have gone over our allotted time, and we super appreciate talking to you. This has been so terrific. I don't know when I've had a better time except talking to all the other authors, because we've had a great time for all of you, but we would love to have you come back and talk to us more.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, there'll be more books coming up and more Stinky stories.
We didn't even get to talk about those.
Yeah.
The 3 Billy Goats Gruff. I did
Billy Goats Gruff.
I did the show where the audition was everybody pick a Star Trek character and just improv. And that reminded me of that experience. And I just had a great time with it. So thanks for reminding me.
Yeah, it's fun. And so we also have Stinking Beauty. That's the 6th one coming out. It's coming out in the fall too. So we have 3 books to talk about everything comes out in October, because more books are sold for the holidays than any other time in the calendar year.
Yeah.
Good. Well, thank you guys so much. It was a lot of fun. It's my kindred spirits, my improv buddies.
Yay! Bye, everybody. Oh. We're so glad you could join us. We had so much fun with Chris. We had to do not one, but two parts. So sometime in the fall, we'll continue our conversation with Chris. He has a sequel to Miss Pennypickle's Puzzle Quest, and we're excited about that. And there's also a sequel to Dan Yacarino's Piccolo coming out. And this Dan over here, Dan Gutman, every time we say Dan Gutman, he publishes another book. Dan Gutman. See, I think he just published one. But the good news is all 3 of them have decided that we'll talk again in October, sometime this fall. So stay tuned. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading. It's awesome. Check it out.